Thank you, Rasha. And I would like to welcome my colleagues, Bruce, Adham, and George. Randa is fine. It's a family emergency, but she is okay. I just want people know that. And between me and the rest, we will be able to fill in her seat today. So, so this is on the internationalization, that session on the internationalization at EUC. When we say internationalization, we mainly focus on the number of international students and the number of international faculty. That's our main focus for internationalization. We understand that the definition of internationalization is beyond that, but because those are two important criteria for internationalization at EUC, we give them an extra emphasis. So I'm going to start with my colleague Bruce and ask Bruce about what is the outlook for international studies in the United States before COVID and maybe after COVID, and how would that impact AUC recruitment for international students?
Well, I'm glad you put the little caveat on the question because like everyone else in this meeting, my entire life, it seems to me, is always for every issue we face, before COVID-19, during COVID-19, after COVID-19. I'm the oldest person on the panel, but I've never lived through a global pandemic like this. And so it's changed everything. And it's, I think, for those of us, myself starting, who were naive to think that we were going to be in this for a few months, it's been a much longer process, and therefore the results have been really tough. I was interested, for example, that the Council on Graduate Schools showed that in the United States, the number of international graduate students coming into the United States fell by over 40% from last academic year to the current academic year. We've never seen anything like that. You can see trend lines over a long period of time, but it's a big issue. So clearly the issue is that at the moment, there's very little of this that's going on. The impact it means after COVID-19, though, will probably be that we will take some time before we're going to be able to see a return to normal. And that's probably because the campuses are still moving in the United States through online and other efforts. We've had lots of virtual fairs, but much of the pipeline that develops, if you think about the students that we recruit this year, don't show up until next year. Sometimes they don't show up for 2 years. About that is the disruption will probably be with us for some period of time. There is very little demand in the United States for sort of classic degree seeking abroad. The places that really happened about that turn out to be that's sort of in China at an undergraduate level, and India and China on a graduate level dominate that grouping. The biggest issues will clearly be about the opportunity for the non-degree, for the study abroad students, and I think those will continue to return in the years post-pandemic. George can speak to the issue in Europe. I think it's a more complicated issue there, partly because of the Barcelona Declaration and the direction we're moving there. But in general, I think that if you're looking at this over a next semester, it's going to be a tough time. If we're talking about it over the next 3-4 years, we've just got to do the right things.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. So, Bruce, when you go out and recruit for students in North America, I'm sure that you will be always for the support from us here in mainland. So, so what can we do to make your life easier? What can we do to help you and your team to recruit more international students to AUC, degree seeking or non-degree seeking? It doesn't matter actually for us.
I think in part we need to expand our vision about what we could do with international students. And the good news is that we have all the right elements to be successful. And by that, I mean that we've often gotten to the issue, which is that the primary reason that people would come to AUC is almost exclusively to study Arabic, maybe to study sort of Middle Eastern activity. But it's a broader agenda than that. So if you look about the majors that are increasing in North America, they tend to be overwhelmingly in business, but also in engineering and some of the sciences. And so we need, and the good news is that we have very strong programs there. So I think we need to find a way in which we make an appeal, not just to the students we traditionally tried to appeal that we made to students, but we need to broaden our discussion and saying coming to Egypt also gives you a chance to deal with a well-accredited business school, a well-accredited engineering school, lots of other kinds of programs that I think that we have the opportunity to be able to pitch. And I think the students will be very excited about that opportunity. So Arabic studies is not the largest growing area. In fact, it's a shrinking area at most of the places, but the growth has been huge. Just to put it in some perspective, we've had as many new graduate increase in the number of graduate number of majors, I mean, in business in the last 2 years, is all of the enrollment that's happened at all of the foreign language majors. Just to put that, think about that. Just the increase in the business has been greater than that entire pool. So we need to think, I think, creatively and take advantage of just great expertise and great strengths that we have across the campus to tell our story in a fuller way.
So, George, let me go to you. I think I will ask you the same questions. As you know, we have been noting, a decline in the enrollment in our Arabic program at AUC for international students. We have been also noting change in the landscape of international students in Egypt, and there was more competition in the region and in Egypt. By the way, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia just announced a few days ago, that they will invite branch campuses to their land too, and that means increase of competition. What can we do in the academic side and in the supporting units to help you, George, and your team to recruit for more international students at UC? Especially in the domain of study abroad. George, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ihab. First of all, as you said, study abroad, that immediately raises the point that we have to distinguish between degree seeking and non-degree seeking. And as Bruce said, Bruce talked about the markets. I concur with what he said. And I also think that one of the, if we look at degree seeking students, before I mentioned study abroad, we really have not, looked closely enough at the potential from the regional market, the MENA market. I think that the potential for bringing in at the undergraduate level students from the MENA region is much larger than we think it is. It's larger than the US and larger than the European markets. I would say that the regional market of MENA, and then followed by perhaps the Asia region, China in particular. And as Bruce said, India is more of a graduate degree market. But China is a market that we have not really approached. If you notice, Ain Shams just brought 11 students from China to study Arabic. Faros University has a contract with China to bring in 60 a year. And so there are students, but the way we market is, I think, a problem, particularly for China. We don't have testimonials from Chinese students on our website. We don't have a landing page that is in a foreign language. The Chinese would not be able to find our university on the traditional search engines because they use Baidu and WeChat. They don't use Facebook, they don't use Google. So we really could rethink the way in which we market to that area. Now, study abroad, it's true that the numbers of the study abroad students have dropped dramatically this year. And as Bruce said, this is a pandemic, I think pandemic affected number, and we can go back and look at the way the numbers were way back when, you know, but pre-2011, when we were in the golden age of internationalization, when we really didn't have to try very hard to bring in students. Now, of course, one of the benefits of having to really scramble to bring students in is that we've improved our services and our customer service enormously for international students. This semester, I surveyed them and asked them what was the draw to AUC. They said number one, and again, this corroborates what Bruce just said. I counted the number of courses that students were enrolled in. The top 4 courses are from the School of Business. They're not Arabic. Arabic is the 5th most popular course among international students. The School of Business has enormous potential. Students told me that they over and over again, triple crown. The triple crown accreditation in Europe is what is attracting them. It is pushing AUC to the top of the search engines. That's number one. Number two is that they would like more opportunities to do internships in Egypt, more things that can help them build careers. So they are coming here. One of the courses that they're talked about most in the past is I can't remember the name of it, but it is like a business 360 in Africa. Sharif, if Sharif is here, Sharif knows about it because I think he teaches in it. The potential for us to be a training center for students to learn about how to do business in the African continent, in the Middle East, is, I think, our most promising market. I think you're muted, Ehab. I'm not, I don't.
Ehab, you're still muted.
Yeah, I was saying it's karma, George, yes. So George, that's very illuminating. Actually, this is, I think you have shed the light on many issues that we need to work on at AUC and to consider. And I hope Sharif Kamel is not with us because I know that he's going to ask for budget.
I'm here.
But George,
I love you, Sharif.
building on what you said,
I'm here.
you know, George, we established summer at AUC and winter at AUC. How can we utilize those 2 programs to increase the number of international students in the winter and in the summer?
Okay, study abroad in the summer is I think it's hugely attractive. First of all, most, you know, in the US, the numbers would say that the students go abroad in the summer more than at any other time. It's short. The weather is better in most places, and it provides a nice combination of courses. You're not taking too many courses, and you can combine that with travel, and it's a wonderful experience. It's also very good for students from the UK because they don't use a credit system, and therefore they can't come. Many of them cannot come to AUC during the year because the credits don't transfer back. So there has to be, I think, it's a popular time. It's a budget-friendly option for students in the summer. And I think one of the problems we have is that our exchange agreements are only for fall and spring. So we're not nominating students to go in the summer, and they're not nominating students. But so students would be fee paying, which is another advantage. So we know that there is this benefit to having students in the summer. We know that now our campus is fully operational in the summer. We don't go to sleep the way we did maybe 15 years ago when, you know, you'd come here in July and August and you wouldn't see a peep on campus. Now the campus is fully functional. So that's another advantage. So what do? We need a larger set of course offerings in the summer. Without the SEMS courses, we need a lot of courses in PPAD to be offered in the summer. We need Arabic to be offered in the summer. And it's the fact that we don't have the offerings in the summer that dissuades students from coming to AUC in the summer. That's it, because otherwise the weather is not an impediment. Students don't mind the heat in the summer, most of them. And so I really think that what we need to do is I need to talk to outside of North America, to talk to partners, talk to North America, to our team in North America about the interest, about generating interest for study at AUC in the summer, and then seeing what types of courses we should be offering, and trying to get students to commit to these courses in advance so that we don't have to close them for low enrollment.
Thank you very much, George. And before Nabil, if you allow me, I will ask the last question to Adham Ramadan, then I will take questions from the floor. So Adham, what was the impact of the online teaching modality on international student enrollment? I'm talking here, Adham, about graduate students, mainly graduate students at AUC, and what are the lessons learned from that, and how can we recruit for more international graduate students?
Sure, thank you, Ian. So we've been closely monitoring the numbers over this semester, the spring 2021 and fall 2020 admissions, and we've noted a very significant, very clear increase in the number of international students. So for both fall 2020 and spring 2021, the number of international degree-seeking students represented 16% of the incoming student body. That's basically, if we compare it to what was happening the year before, so we compare fall to fall 20 to fall 19, we have a tripling of the number. And between spring 21 to spring 20, we have a doubling of the number of international students, degree seeking, coming to AUC. So this is a bit different than what Bruce mentioned happening in the US, where the number of incoming graduate students to US universities, international graduate students incoming to US universities, has decreased. So so here we're seeing an increase. I think the reason is that it's twofold. One, some of the, our areas of focus for international degree-seeking student recruitment at the graduate level is, of course, the US, and we sort of coordinate with the US team, North America team on that, and Africa. So, the one reason possibly behind this increase is that we're getting more students from the African market that otherwise could have considered going to the US. So the decrease in the numbers of incoming graduate students to US, degree-seeking graduate students, I think we're observing that some of them are opting for AUC. The other point is that the online teaching seems to have worked to the favor of our graduate and degree-seeking international students. They actually have for fall and spring, they've had the possibility of conducting their courses online from their home country. Some of them do opt to come to AUC or do opt to come to Cairo, to be physically in Cairo, but this actually, they consider it as an addition, but some decide to continue their course, to conduct their courses online from their home countries. So these are the two factors that probably led to the increase in the number of international student enrollment at the graduate level. And we just also interestingly decided to compare the numbers not only to last year, to compare it to a 5-year average prior to COVID. And basically, we compare fall to fall and spring to spring. Fall to the average of 5 years has witnessed 95% increase in the international graduate degree-seeking students, and spring to spring, the average of 5 years has increased by 120%. So that's very positive, and that ties in very well with the discussions we're having and we'll be discussing in the next panel about online graduate education at UC, the opportunities that we can actually make use to outreach, the graduate students at the international level. Of course, that's the focus of this panel, but at the graduate level, we also look at outreach to graduate students, Egyptian as well as international. One last thing that is not really related to necessarily the online teaching modality is in response to or in conjunction with this increase in the number of international students, we've been working also with teams. The OSP team has been invaluable in that respect, as well as the team of advancement, to making available more fellowships opportunities available to international students. So with rearranging the budget, institutional fellowship budget at EUC, we're trying to make use of this budget to attract more international students. But on the other hand, we also, with OSP, with the support, we have this fellowship program with the Department of State supporting supporting graduate students from the MENA region. And we have a specific one that actually we started implementing support from the advancement team on getting Yemeni students to EUC for graduate studies. So basically the combination, we're trying to make use of that trend to try to attract more students to EUC and see, use that as a leverage for hopefully thinking more seriously about online education at the graduate level.
Thank you very much, Adham. And I'm gonna open the floor for questions and comments from the floor. So Dean Fahmy, Nabil.
Thank you, Provost. Just a couple of comments and questions, and any of the panelists can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. There is a increase in internationalization in comparison to the last 4 or 5 years. I say this not only in terms of enrollment, but also in terms of the actual engagement with foreigners using online because of COVID and allowing different speakers to come and speak at our classes and so on and so forth without them physically being here. So that's internationalization. I look at it both going out and coming in, but let me focus on coming in rather than going out per se, because that's where I think we need to do a bit more. My first point is we've seen an increase in the numbers. I'm not sure we're seeing that much of an increase in North Americans, however. There may be more international students, international faculty, but I don't see a major increase in the number of North Americans, and we need to look at why and how to do that. In the past, as GAP, we've actually held winter classes for American universities and summer and spring classes, by the way, where we offered with the Monterey Institute for International Affairs a winter class where we taught the class for them here at AUC, and they brought the class all the way here. And it was not a Middle East oriented class, but it was to give them the experience of AUC and other words. But in other words, we can tailor some classes for winter and summer. I think George mentioned that. US students will essentially be focusing on Middle East oriented topics. Otherwise, I say this modestly, they have good engineering schools, they have good business schools, they also have, of course, good global affairs schools. But the reason they would come to business is for the doing business in the Middle East. The reason they would come to GAP or to HUS would be for that as well. The other excellent schools we have here would attract non-Americans, and they could be either from Europe or especially from Africa. You're not going to get more Asians unless we offer intensive Arabic. We can beat around the bush over and over again. I invite Chinese all the time. They visit us and they go to the University of Alexandria or Ain Shams, where they have Arabic immersion. That's not going to work unless we have more intensive Arabic programs for them. I would look at the African market very, very much, but that requires, of course, more fellowships and scholarships because they can't afford our fees. I would simply, again, on a side issue, if we look at different ways of teaching and different ways of creating credit hours, we can possibly get more students into our classroom from abroad, even if they're not fully registered for our courses, and vice versa. And I would again simply mention, I used to teach a module in California where I would fly in, teach a very long weekend for 17 hours with the students, and they would get 1 credit for doing that. And then they would do the same thing later on with somebody else from a different country. These kinds of things would function and allow us to attract more students. But if we're looking at 3 credit hours, spring and fall, our competition really is going to give us a hard time as we move forward, unless we really make a good effort on Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabil. And I will ask the panelists not to answer now or not to comment now. I will take the second question from Hanadi, then I will ask the panelists to comment on the 2 comments. Hanadi.
Thank you, Ihab, and thanks for the panelists for wonderful, insightful information. I'm wondering, because being a member also of the Faculty of Engineering, I find it, we all find it very difficult to recruit students from US or other continents that could take courses in our programs. It's very seldom happening. However, recently I was communicated with from New York office, and they requested information for a student from West Virginia University and for courses in mechanical engineering. And I was really very happy delivering and giving them the information that's required, because I thought this might really open a venue to have and to recruit more students, international students. My question is what is the procedure the office is taking to recruit students for technical programs, and how can we intensify this effort? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Hanadi. Bruce, would you like to first cut on that?
First, and I remember the example well of the West Virginia students, and so I want to say thank you, because the provost asked a minute ago, what can we do to help? And one of them is, if we have a student who's interested, the ability to follow up on a timely basis is important. I think there's a couple issues, and you're 100% correct, which is the engineering students, while that's a growing major, it's a more difficult issue to try to find them to study internationally at any time. So I do think it's likely to be that the summer programs are going to, as a supplement, so it doesn't interfere what they think of as how hard it is to get all their courses in their 4-year time period. About that is one that we need to find. I think that there are niches, and I've had some conversations with the old president at the University of Texas, who's now at Emory, about sort of opportunities to take advantage of this. So there are some things that happen. The other thing more generically is we probably need to take this pause moment and rethink a lot of things that we're doing for the post-pandemic time frame. I'm thinking about the time frame by which we decide which classes that we're going to offer. That needs to be done earlier so that they can make those selections. The admissions process and getting that done. The American students are used to a much longer time frame to be able to make their decisions. We can do this much quicker in Egypt among our largely domestic students. But when we get to the international students, there's some procedural things that we could do on top of it. And the last issue is that we really obviously need to find a way, and this is beyond the scope of this panel, to continue to find more faculty interactions and the kind of thing that we've been talking a little bit about today. Because I think as we raise our visibility in some of those programs, people will start thinking about, is this something we can do in summer? Is it something that we can do in winter? Or is it something we can even find a way, given our accreditation, that we can do elsewhere? It's not going to be easy in engineering, but I do think it's worth the effort.
Yeah, and let me add also, I think also, Hanadi, the effort that Dean Al-Fawwal has been pushing for is to review the number of credit hours in our programs and reduce them to meet the international standards may help in that domain, offering, I think the key take from this session mainly is we need to focus more on the winter and the summer, offer more courses that make more sense to international students in the winter and in the summer, and also enhance our processes in admission in order to attract more applications for international students. I see more hands on the chat, which is Dr. Zainab and Dr. Lutfi. Please hold those questions to the very end. We have an hour of Q's and A's. Please write them down, and we will be able to take them at that time. So with that, Alia, back to you. Thank you so much for the panelists. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Adham, and thank you, George. That was very insightful remarks from you. Thank you very much.